We have a very interesting gospel today. That's always interesting. There's always depths to it that we never manage to plumb. But today's gospel from St. Luke, as a continuation of last week, I think has a lot to tell us. And the pairing with the first reading, which is a sort of a description of the call of the prophet and the trial of the prophet, and how sometimes if you want to speak the truth, you're going to find yourself in difficulties with people accepting it, to put it mildly. But it's a fitting prelude to the gospel that we have today. But this particular passage in St. Luke is a very self-contained one. And what I mean by that is this: it begins with people admiring Jesus and the gracious words that fell from his lips. And there you have a picture of our Lord's ministry at the outset of his public ministry, with people gathering around in great numbers, and people saying what a wonderful man he is, and that nobody's ever spoken like this before. All of those accolades that came his way because of the power of his ministry, the healings, the teachings, and his general activity, his love for the sick and the poor and the outcast. So we have that at the beginning of the gospel today. And then a voice of hesitation, criticism. This is Joseph's son, surely. We know him. We know his parents, at least we think we do. His dad. How can he be saying and doing these things? Because we know we've got him taped. We know who he is. And that seems to really upset Jesus, because the next thing that he says is really quite provocative. And he goes on and tells how miracles were worked in the Old Testament with people who were not part of the people of God, not part of the chosen race. So you have the widow in the Sidonian town, Sidon, the town of Sidon. Tyre and Sidon come in for regular volleys of antipathy in the Old Testament. So here's this woman from a Sidonian town. Can anything good come out of Sidon, you might say? And then the Syrian general army person who is healed. And Jesus says, when these two people were met by the grace of God, they weren't the ones you would expect. They weren't part of the chosen race. So you have to be open to what God is doing. And by saying to me, well, we know who you are, you're Joseph's son, the Lord is suggesting that they're not open to him. And in fact, he can't work the miracles in places where people are not open to him, where people just deny the possibility that he is who he is, or that he can do what he has done in other places. And then, so we've seen the beginning of our Lord's ministry in these couple of lines where everybody thinks very highly of him. Then we see the opposition that begins, and then it goes even further in a shocking way where they hustle him out of town. Extraordinary. Jesus hustled out of town, grabbed, forced, pushed. tugged. And they take him to the brow of the hill. Can we read into that little expression, the brow of the hill, the prediction of the hill of Calvary? And they try to kill him. Of course, on Calvary they succeed. But look what happens here. He slips away. He gives them the slip. I rather like to think of it that way, and walks away. And could we see that, dear friends, as an inkling of the resurrection, of the triumph of the good, that evil will do what it can, but it will not overcome this man who, yes, is allegedly Joseph's son, but is more really the Son of God. So it's the whole gospel in miniature, really. Wonderful little episode, I think. And I think a lesson perhaps to be drawn from it for us in our modern age is to be careful about putting people into categories, about classifying people as one thing and not the other, as not seeing the infinite variety that there is in people's motivation, in the struggles that they have with the faith. You know, it's so easy to categorize people and to put them into, as what expression they use today, put them into silos where you've got them sorted out. Jesus knows the heart of man, as it says. He knew what was in a person. It says in St. John's Gospel, he knows what's in us and all the conflicting things that are in our own lives. But he doesn't allow himself to be constrained by what people might think. He goes to the heart. So we have to give thanks to the Lord that does see us and does know us, and it doesn't stop him loving us and helping us in our lives. Have a good weekend and a good week ahead. Some notices for the week. We have the lovely feast of the Presentation of the Lord on the 2nd of February, which is Wednesday. Jesus being presented in the temple, and Simeon and Anna greeting Mary and Joseph. Beautiful, beautiful scene. And in some countries, this marks the end of the Christmas season. There are families and communities that still have their crib there until the Feast of the Presentation. And I think the Orthodox Church, if I'm right, I think they celebrate Christmas all the way through to the Presentation. So that sounds as though it's the really early tradition of the Church. So it's a lovely day to come to Mass if you can. I know it's a weekday, and we will have a simple little ceremony with candles. At last, all-powerful Master, you give leave to your servant to go in peace according to your promise. For my eyes have seen your salvation, the light to enlighten the Gentiles. The words of Simeon, the prophet. The bishops have written to us to say that there is a relaxation in the restrictions for public worship, i.e. what we do at Mass can change a bit. And this will involve the reinstitution of the Holy Water Stoup and also the sign of peace. Now, we won't do anything this weekend, but next weekend, we'll talk about it and make sure that people are comfortable with what's being said. This is not huge laws coming down heavily from on high, but it's just opening up possibilities that can be taken. And the other thing to say is that we are delighted, as a parish, I hope, with the response to the exposition of the Blessed Sacrament on Thursdays from 10 in the morning, after the 10 o'clock Mass, until 10 at night. All the hours are covered, but some are looking a little bit on the weak side. So those hours are 12 till 1, 3 till 4, and 6 till 7. We have cover, but it would be helpful if others could commit to one of those hours. And also, if there are people who can't necessarily commit every week, but would be prepared to come in at fairly short notice to cover a reasonable hour, we'd be very grateful to hear from you. Peter and Marion Green would be very, very grateful to hear from you. You can have a word with me or Father Patrick after Mass, Deacon Barry, if that's easier for you to communicate. But thanks to everybody. I have a great sense of the value of these hours of prayer. I can't exaggerate the importance of it. I'm very grateful, and I know a lot of you would love to do more than you can. But thanks to those who do come and can commit, and let's keep up the good work. It will bring great blessing. There's no two ways about it. Thanks, everybody. Have a good week.